they're not able to get whatever the MFA code that the bank may send. So just keep in mind that, and I think even if we're not talking about deportation, most of us who travel have experience attempting to get some funds out and finding out there's a hold while you're outside of the country. I joke all the time that I'll get more holds in the South Bronx than I do when I'm actually out of the country. So I just want to make sure that we are cautious. Next slide. I just want to throw this in here. Based on the most recent news about the deaths happening in ICE custody, I do think we should start considering putting in place health proxies so that there could be a medical power of attorney that is completely separate from the financial power of attorney. We haven't about fully the deaths happening that, but part of my goal ICE custody is to ensure that I do think I share the considering putting in place. You can go to any financial advisor so that can expound there could be a medical power of attorney. But if you are aware of that is completely separate from the financial power of attorney and the healthcare we haven't and using a trust to protect fully vetted that. You have, but you have what you need to get it done, right? Is to ensure and you still have time to actively get all of this stuff done. You can go to TPS ends February 3rd. The goal is not to wait until February. If you are aware of anytime between then and now, you should be good. So I do want to make sure that I don't end on an extremely negative note. So I have to stress this. You have at this moment, you still have the power to take all the steps necessary. And you still have time to actively get all of this stuff done. And your money because TPS ends February 3rd. You're able to make the goal is not to wait until February 4th. Anytime between then and now, you should be good. Sure that you use this time. I do want to make sure that I don't end on an extremely negative note. So I have to stress this. At this moment, you still have the power to take all the steps necessary to protect your children and your money.
Information-filled presentation, and I think a lot of people in the chat are asking if you would be willing to share this PowerPoint afterwards for those that registered for the event. Is that something that's possible, or should they contact you directly? Anyone at Little Haiti BK for those resources. Thank you so much, Stephanie. This was such a
all of these details. It'll just have a little bit more
information-filled presentation, and I think a lot of people in the chat are asking if you would be willing to share this PowerPoint afterwards for those that registered for the event. Is that something that's possible, or should they contact you directly? Anyone at Little Haiti BK. Thank you so much. Our last presenter before we yield to Pastor Nelson is Coralie Jean Francois, who is from NYIC, who will be talking about Know Your Rights and some of the advocacy efforts of the organization here in New York City. Coralie, take it away. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Our last presenter before we yield to Pastor Nelson is Coralie Jean Francois, who is from NYIC, who will be talking about Know Your Rights and some of the advocacy efforts of the organization here in New York City. Coralie, take it away.
To thank Leader Jeffries and Congresswoman Clark for putting this together to truly meet the needs of the community. The New York Immigration Coalition is a nonprofit organization. We are made up of over 200 senior manager of political engagement across New York State at the United in the Fight Coalition. Asylum rights, refugee rights. To thank Leader Jeffries and we fight for those rights for putting this together at federal level. And I'm here today to share resources on the ways in which the New York Immigration Coalition and the Haitian community can protect themselves in the face of the termination of TPS. I would like to just give folks a few notes on this presentation today. The first is I am not an attorney. I will not be providing legal advice. The information I'll be providing here and the resources I will be providing here are just for educational and informational purposes only. This is a safe space, but it is not a private space. So please do not share any pertinent information regarding your specific case. If you do need legal advice, please seek that advice via a qualified immigration attorney, a qualified paralegal. In the case that you have children, a qualified family law attorney to provide that guidance. But this information is just for you to utilize to ascertain and regain that contextual information, but the legal advice I will not be providing. Another thing I would like to state is all of this information is available on our website. Once I finish presenting and I can see you all, I will be linking a lot of the ones I've chatted about today in the chat so you have easy reference to them in Creole, but all of them and more are accessible through the NYIC website. That is nyic.org/KYR. That's the acronym for Know Your Rights. So nyic.org/KYR. I'll first get us started with just a reminder for folks of your rights whenever you are in contact with law enforcement, ICE or otherwise. You do have the right to remain silent. You do have the right to not answer any questions. You are able to not consent to a search of your belonging, your house, your vehicle, and your person. If you are detained, you do have a right to a phone call and to contact an attorney. You also do have the right to not answer any questions, but also refuse to sign anything without the advice of your attorney, especially sign anything if it is not in the language that you are comfortable with, and refuse to sign anything that you do not understand. Lastly, I want to remind folks that you have the right to prohibit any law enforcement from entering your home without a signed warrant from a judge. And valid copies of signed warrants are also available on our website if you would like to see those. I will first get us started. We've heard a lot about the termination of TPS and what that would mean, and truly how important it is to prepare us for that February 3rd day and not wait until February 4th. One of the ways in which you can do this is to prepare your family, your friends, and your loved ones. And at the NYIC, we've curated this family preparedness guide to help families plan ahead in case a loved one is detained or deported. It will kind of guide you through to reduce the chaos and the harm that can be caused when a family is not prepared. So first, it walks you through choosing a trusted emergency contact who can step in quickly. That person could help take care of children, talk to schools or doctors, manage bills, contact an attorney, and access important information and documents. The guide also explains why it's important to organize and copy key documents ahead of time, like your IDs, your immigration paperwork, your birth certificates, and any financial information, and to store them in a safe space that a trusted person can access. There is also a section on planning if you have children that are US citizens. It includes information on how parents in New York State can fill out forms to temporarily designate someone to care for their children if they are suddenly unavailable. One of the easiest forms that allows you to appoint a caregiver for your child is the parental designation form, which allows a person of your choosing to handle basic educational and medical needs for your child, specifically in regards to picking them up from school, taking them to doctor appointments, etc. There is also the standby guardianship option that you can review, and that will help. That preparation will help avoid your child ending up in foster care. Another part of this guide also explains how to find information about your immigration court case, and it includes how to look it up using your A number so that families know where to get the accurate updates regarding your case. The other resource I would like to share is a resource called the Immigration Detention Support Guide. This is also available in Haitian Creole on the website. It is meant to help folks understand what they can do and what once someone is detained by immigration enforcement and how to handle this situation safely and to prepare as much as possible. So first, it explains how to find someone in detention via two main ways. The first is via the ICE locator website, that is locator.ice.gov. All of this will be linked in what I put in the chat soon, so no worries if you miss it. Once you access that locator.ice.gov website and put that person information, you will be able to see in which facility that individual is being held. I would like to say there is one caveat that it does take a lot of time for the system to be updated on the back end. So the information for an individual may not be immediately reflected once they are detained. If you do know where a loved one is detained, however, that is the name of the facility, you are able to get their information via the accesscorrections.com website, which lists all the ICE detention facilities selected and provides you with contact information for those specific detention centers. And if you cannot find someone, using those online resources, the best practice is to contact your local ICE ERO office. That is your local ICE Enforcement and Removal Operations Office. And that website will also be provided. Once you find someone that is detained, this guide will also provide you on guidance on how to communicate with them. They should have access to phone calls. The person detained will be able to call you. Mail is also available, video and messaging apps. Some facilities use, but not all. This form also does cover the topic of bond, which is the money that you pay to secure someone's release while they are in immigration proceedings. It explains where and how bond can be posted and that you may need certain kinds of IDs and access to a bank account to do so. But it also provides you with bond funds and assistance programs that may help if you cannot afford bond. I would like to also flag the caveat that bond is not always provided, so this may be an option for some, but not all. But overall, it's a practical tool to help families and loved ones navigate detention if that is the case and on their end. This slide here specifically really details the ways in which you may find legal support. I really emphasize the may find because, as you are all aware, the need for legal services, specifically immigration legal services, is really heightened. And with the termination of various TPS programs like Haiti's on February 3rd, possibly, will increase that need. So if someone is detained in New York City or New Jersey immigration courts, the Legal Aid Society, the Brooklyn Defenders, and Brooklyn Defender Services may be able to provide you with guidance on your case. The Immigrant Defense Project and the New York City Moya's legal support hotline may also do that. If someone is detained at the Buffalo Federal Detention Center, that is an ICE detention center up in Western New York, the ECBA Volunteers Lawyers Project and the Prisoners Legal Services may also be able to get you legal representation. Again, I emphasize that may get you that support if needed. We've also seen that the administration has been quickly transferring folks outside of the state in which they are initially detained. And if that happens to anyone, we've provided a website, the immigrationadvocates.org/legal directory, that lists several different ways in which you can find legal services based on where the individual is located. And then I've also included here a website to find more information on someone's case. Like I mentioned earlier, that form, the Family Preparedness Guide, does include this information as well. Now I'll shift to some long-term statewide solutions that is some of the work that the NYIC has been doing to really protect immigrant communities, especially the Haitian community in New York State, to truly meet the need of what is going on now via the federal administration. The first is trying to answer the question of increasing legal service providers. So that is the passage of the Access to Representation Act and or the BUILD Act, both of which are live bills that we have been fighting for a few years, that would establish the right to counsel for an immigration court. Most folks understand immigration court to be similar to the judiciary system, but it is not. When you are charged with a crime, you are typically allowed a public defender at the cost of the state. In immigration court, that is not the case. Folks have to either hire private lawyers or seek guidance from local community-based organizations who do provide legal services in that case. And because there is so much happening and folks are in heightened need for legal services, the need for those providers has increased, yet the ability for folks to access them has not. So this Access to Representation Act establishes that right for counsel for anyone facing deportation in immigration court. This bill is also accompanied by the need to pass the Building Up Immigrant Legal Defense Act, which would invest 4 years of funding to grow and strengthen legal services. So it is one thing to need lawyers, it is one thing to have the right to lawyers, but we also need to build the amount of lawyers that there is. And this BUILD Act, for short, the Building Up Immigrant Legal Defense Act would ask the state for funding to provide lawyers with workforce development and training, the expansion of legal services representation to underserved communities in rural regions, and integrate social workers in the case evaluations that are being. These bills also have a funding aspect to them that is $175 million legal services, and that would again, one, allow for the right to counsel for all folks that are facing deportation in immigration court, but also the increase in and the need for lawyers and the access for lawyers for community members. The next statewide solution that we have been fighting for a really long time. Before I go on to the next one, I'll just chat through. If you are interested in advocating with us on these campaigns, feel free to join our coalition to hear more about where the bills currently are, what we can do to immediately get them to the governor's desks. The next bill that we have been fighting for is the New York for All Act that would put an end to collusion that has existed across the state. It would prohibit local state resources from being used by federal immigration or federal agents. So it would prohibit the collusion between local enforcement and state. It would prohibit the collusion between local agencies, including law enforcement and federal immigration agencies. So it would regulate the sharing of sensitive information with immigration authorities. It would prohibit ICE being notified of any databases. It would prohibit the entry of anyone's immigration status into databases to be shared with federal agents. It would prohibit the use of CBP as interpreters, which is something that we've seen happen a lot. It would also require people to be notified of their rights regarding ICE when in custody. It would prohibit what has been increasingly happening across New York State, the increase of 287G agreements. 287G agreements are agreements that local counties can enter with the federal government to deputize their local law enforcement to be used as ICE agents. For example, in Nassau County, a lot of the Nassau County Sheriff's officers have been deputized to serve as quasi-immigration ICE officers. To learn more about this bill and to join the fight, if you are interested, feel free to scan this QR code. And more information can be provided via email. If you reach out to me, I'll also link that, and then I'll also link the resources if need be. Let's see.
Awesome. Thank you, Coralie. Please make sure to put your information in the chat, and we really appreciate you sharing all the campaigns you all are doing on the state level. Before we go to Q&A, we just have a couple I tried to answer while presenters were going. We have Pastor Nicholas. Is he available to just bring us some brief remarks as a senior pastor for Evangelical Crusade Christian Church?
Yes, I am.
Wonderful, Hi. Pastor. Go ahead.
Good evening. I'm Pastor Samuel Nicholas. I am the senior pastor of Evangelical Crusade Christian Church and the current president of the Haitian Evangelical Clergy Association. Thank you all for convening this meeting tonight. This means so much to our community that Congresswoman Yvette Clarke and leaders Hakeem Jeffries and the other elected representatives on the Zoom took time out of their busy schedule to convene this immigration forum. Reverend Dr. Maurice Jean-Pierre, Dr. Mona Lisa Ferrari, and Elder Delaki Florio for organizing this. Thank you so much for bringing all of us together. To all the presenters, quick question. Can we get this information on a flyer or pamphlet, or are we able to gather all this information, send it to us via email or some way that we're able to print and disseminate to our parishioners and folks that are needed? So that doesn't have to be answered now, but if that's able to be done, that would be very helpful. As we all are aware, there's an impending termination of TPS on February 3rd. I want to just tell you real quickly why it is not a good idea. First of all, I haven't heard it mentioned here today. Beginning February 1st, 2026, the current temporary government that is in Haiti will no longer be in charge. They will be leaving their function. We haven't had a government in Haiti since the assassination of our last elected president, Jovenel Moïse. There are currently no flights in or out of Port-au-Prince. We are still recovering from the damages of the earthquake in January 10, 2010. Violence is still rampant in the country. The current TPS holders, they cannot go back because they said they sold everything to come here. They will become targets if they are returned to Haiti. It would be cruel and inhuman to separate families. There are currently a group of elderlies recovering, receiving hospice care. They need to stay in the United States. So the benefits of extending TPS or pathway to a green card, American citizenship, which I'm addressing to Leader Jeffries and Congresswoman Clark. The Haitians, as you know, they are hard workers. They work in healthcare. They work in hospitality. They are transportation drivers. The U.S. will not continue to be seen as a beacon of hope throughout the world if we are deporting 300 to 500,000 Haitians. Once again, I am pleading. I've been asking this since the last 2-3 months. In 2026, this year, it has been 40 years since we've had the last amnesty. So it's been 40 years. It's time for us to find a pathway to comprehensive immigration reform, a pathway to citizenship, a pathway for all the illegals, whether they are Haitians, whether they are Jamaicans, Venezuelans, all of those that are here in the United States. We need to find a way to get them to be legalized in the United States. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And thank you once again, all the conveners, everyone that brought us all together. Thank you. God bless you all.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Pastor Nicholas. And we have some of our presenters that are sharing resources in English and Creole. Thanks, Coralie, in the chat. So we can also definitely share those with you virtually via email so that you can disseminate that to your congregation as well. And participants who registered via their email, you will receive a modified copy of the PowerPoint presentations that were used today. So you'll have those resources in your inbox beginning of next week. Just to go to a couple of the questions that were in the chat today. One, do you plan on co-sponsoring the Secure Act to give TPS holders a pathway to legal status? This is a really great question. It's a legislative question. There is no current update on this. We do recommend that you check in with Congressman Jeffries' office and Congresswoman Yvette Clarke's office in DC to get a status update. It's a really great question, but as of right now, not an update that we can present here today, but a good question nonetheless. The second question we have, I think, came from a comment made during the presentation was, what does that mean that your offices are sanctuaries? Can people get there starting February if they feel threatened until a solution is found to the TPS situation? I'll yield to any of the presenters, but our congressional offices, I can only speak for. You know, we do provide assistance with immigration resources. However, we are not necessarily we are a sanctuary city as New York. However, we definitely can provide resources if you feel threatened. But I do want to defer to any of the presenters here today if they have specific recommendations of where individuals should go to first if they feel an immediate threat to their status and can kind of go to as a safe haven. Feel free to unmute yourselves.
I can't necessarily speak to a general space to go to if you feel an immediate threat, but I can speak to the difference between being in a private property in a private space and being in a public space and the types of protections available in both. And so if ICE agents were to go to a private property, they do need a warrant signed by a judge in order to be let in. However, if you're just walking in the street or if you're just walking anywhere, you can be stopped and they do not need warrants. They just, once upon a time, they needed reasonable suspicion, but based on the interpretations of the most recent Supreme Court decisions, I think we can all agree by watching their behavior that they seem to be just walking up to people. And so the simple question, so the simple answer is if you're already outdoors, I would recommend, because New York City is a public Not a public, because New York City is a sanctuary city, our churches, our hospitals, and our schools are back to these spaces that should not be letting ICE in. Those spaces, however, for the most part, you'd have to be careful because we don't know if the people would allow you to come in. But as a sanctuary city, churches, hospitals, and schools are spaces that ICE can't just walk in anymore, and we're not cooperating with them. And if you are in any enclosed space, it does protect you, give you some protections if it's a private space. If it's a public space, on the other hand, you don't have as many protections. So if you're in a restaurant that anybody could just walk into and the door is wide open, not as much protection. If you are in a space where it's reservations only and the door is locked, that could be deemed a private space. I hope that helped.
Stephanie, now that's great. I think reminding people about hospitals, schools, and churches, houses of worship is a really important reminder for those on the call. The next question we have is, good evening. Can you share any assistance, if any, a church can offer in regards to their members affected by this? I know we have a few clergy members, so Pastor Nicholas, Pastor Mullery, any of the leaders here today, if you have any responses to that.
What was the question, please?
The question is, what, if any, assistance can a church provide for members affected by TPS?
Halani is on the call, and they've been providing information to the churches. If you allow them to answer that question, they probably can. Rodney Pepe Souvni and Sandra Dieudonné, they are on the call also. They've been working with our churches. They've been working with my church, Pastor Mullery Church, and most of the churches in the greater New York area in terms of resources that are available.
Great. We will meet them. Rodney Pepe Souvenir, who's the president of Haitian American Lawyers Association, and Sandra Dieudonné from Catholic Charities, correct?
Yes.
Okay. As we search for them on the call to unmute them, we'll yield to them to see some of the work that they're doing behind the scenes to help navigate immigration issues.
Hi, this is Rodney.
Oh, perfect. There you go. Floor's yours. Go ahead.
How are you? Thank you so much, everyone, for being on the call. I think the question was in reference to whether a church could be a sanctuary for people. That is something that the church, I mean, usually churches are sanctuaries. Um, uh, that is something, though, that the church would have to kind of provide that information to people. I don't know how they would manage that if they are. It's a little different time than it was back when that was considered the place. But as was discussed before, ICE cannot enter a church and look for people, parishioners from the church, and anyway entering any kind of private building, and that's what a church would be, would require them to have some kind of judicial documentation to do that. I don't want to put any church in a position of people thinking, oh, it's a sanctuary, we can just go there. There was a time when that was a consideration. I'm not sure what that is right now today.
Thank you, Rodney. And is there any work kind of you want to highlight that's happening with Hala or work you're doing specifically with Catholic Charities that you want to?
Of
Yeah,
course.
go for it.
So a lot of the things that we're trying to do is we're of course working with Little Haiti BK in the preparedness realm and talking to parishioners and talking to people within the community about how to prepare in the event, unfortunately, that something like this should occur. What we're also doing is we're working with the faith-based community in responding to questions from people within the community who have legal immigration issues. Sandra Dieudonné has been very, very helpful because she is a senior legal person at the Catholic Charities and has been working with individuals in the community with their individual issues, immigration issues, and that still continues to happen. It's just unfortunate that for all of the issues that are happening and coming up, there's not enough immigration attorneys to go around to help everyone. What we do tell people is to be careful in trying to get an attorney to reasonably try to vet them as much as possible. Do not accept pie in the sky promises that they can do certain things when we know full well that right now everything's at a standstill. Nothing is happening, nothing is moving. So we ask people not to panic, just kind of stay close to the ground and try to listen within the community. There's a lot of resources, as you've heard since the beginning of this program this evening, available to people still.
Hi, everyone. I just want to piggyback off of Rodney. My name is Sandra Jordane. I'm the supervising attorney of the Haitian Response Initiative at Catholic Charities. And we work in partnership with Moya. And when we have various clinics or informational sessions, we refer them to Catholic Charities so that we can see if we can assist the participants or see if they can have legal representation based on their situations. We provide screenings to let the participant know of various legal uh, rights that they may have or may not have. What's very difficult is that all of the potential applications that people can apply for are currently halted. We don't know what's the next step. There are people who applied for TPS and the TPS has not been approved. And so whether or not TPS ends, they don't have TPS at all. And they properly filed and was waiting for the approval notice. And then with all the other forms of relief, such as the CHNV program and the Haitian Family Reunification Program that was ended abruptly, those people passed the date for TPS. And so it's not enough that we ask that TPS be extended, but we also would like that TPS be redesignated so that people who would not be able to receive TPS will be eligible to apply for TPS. But as far as Halani, we have had several informational sessions discussing family preparedness and financial preparedness. And as I said, on the back end, we refer them to Catholic Charities for some legal assistance. Thank you.
Hi, may I make a quick correction?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. When I realized, and I'm not sure if I was clear, but it's a difference that's crucial that I clarify. A sanctuary city simply states that the state's resources will not be used to assist ICE, right? That's a very specific thing. This new mayor have made it clear that Rikers Island will not be cooperating with ICE. With ICE. So from a practical perspective, that's the one different thing that have occurred directly under this mayor. The statement about the schools and churches and hospitals is a policy. So it's not a requirement, but those spaces, if ICE were to go into that, they should be asking ICE for a judicial warrant signed by a judge, which ICE rarely has. And those places are not supposed to cooperate with ICE. But the actual definition of being a sanctuary city simply means that the police and all the all the city and state agencies should not be working with ICE, and therefore they shouldn't be calling ICE on people who need services. I just wanted to make that clarification because it gets a little bit confusing, and it's a very important clarification at this point.
No, I appreciate it. All of this is confusing. So any clarification is helpful. So I also want to yield to Bishop Gregory Toussaint, who is on the line with us. Bishop, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, I'm unmuted.
Wonderful. We definitely want your perspective as a well-respected clergy member throughout the country. So floor is yours, sir.
I think first of all, it's a thank you, Pastor Mallory, and thank you to all the organizers who've put this together. I want to say that the information is really helpful. I will echo Pastor Samuel. Having this in writing will really be helpful for us. So we really appreciate that. I do have, I believe Pastor Jimmy's on the line. He's our community relations pastor. He usually takes care of that on the everyday, in terms of, everyday needs. He handles that at the church. So I don't know if he's there. Perhaps he can say a word. But on my side, I would simply say the information's been really helpful. So I'd love to have it in writing.
Wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. We will definitely get that emailed out to folks, and thank you. Just a couple more questions before we give folks their time back this evening and follow up with all the information shared today. One question that I think is really important, just in terms of how folks are moving around throughout the city during this time. Does everyone with a legal documentation like citizenship, passports, birth certificates, and green cards, etc., should carry those documents with them at all times? Should one be voluntarily presenting these personal identifications to ICE, or do state IDs, are they enough? I think it's a really great question. Any of the presenters, Coralie, Stephanie, if you want to kind of chime in, what should people be carrying with them if asked for identification and stopped by ICE?
I don't mind coming in. So for state IDs, absolutely. And Coralie, yes, you could hop on too. As a general rule, we advise people not to carry original documents that are difficult to replace. So state IDs, absolutely 100%. But for your actual certificate of citizenship, ICE have a history of if they pick you up and they pick up the document, they may not return it to you. And so we advise to carry copies. However, recently we have been advising people do not carry the copy on your phone because you do not want to give ICE access to your phone. So physical photocopy, ideal. Carly, please feel free to add.
I think you've answered all of it. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I think Jimmy from Bishop Church is unmuted. Is there anything else you wanted to add in terms of efforts on your church's front?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Again, just to echo what everybody had said, thank you so much for this information. It's very handy. One of the things that I want to piggyback on, and I think because we have many pastors here, churches, organizations here that are not particularly in a state that is a sanctuary city or sanctuary state. And so one of the things that we're located in Florida, one of the things that we have done, and I would recommend for if there's anyone here that's out of the state of New York, if your state is not a sanctuary state, we would highly recommend to teach the leaders of your congregation in case officials, ICE officials, or any kind of law enforcement official comes to your church, comes to your building, know how to recognize and create a system if they come in, you know what to say and what to do, what to look for. So we're from our end, because our state is not a sanctuary state, and we don't know. So we want to make sure we're mindful that the people who come to the building, we want to make sure that they feel safe, and we have something in place so we can make sure that when officials come in, we know what to say, we know what documents to look for, we know what the documents look like between a administrative warrant and a judge issued warrant. So those are kind of things that we would recommend, especially if you're not in the state of New York, to really work, get a team together and work in that aspect, because again, every state is different, and so that's something that we worked on our end. So we would recommend just to make sure that you know your rights, as you know your rights when it comes to the building, accessing the building from law enforcement authorities. So we just wanted to make that clear, because there may be some on the line here who are not from the state of New York, and the state they are in may not be one that is a sanctuary state. Thank you.
Hi, this is Hattie from the ACLU. I can also jump in on that question regarding carrying your documentation. I think as Stephanie mentioned, it's probably best not to carry your original documents with you. However, last year there was a Supreme Court case called Nome v. Vasquez Perdomo, in which the court essentially legalized racial profiling for ICE, which, I mean, again, you all are New Yorkers and are probably very familiar with stop and frisk. What that court held was that if immigration officials look at you and they think you look like an immigrant, or you seem to have a job that they associate with immigrants having, that they have the right to stop you. They're now, I think, in most legal circles referred to as Kavanaugh stops, because Justice Brett Kavanaugh wrote that part of the opinion. So I think to that end, it is not wholly a bad idea to have certain copies of your identification, whether that's just a copy of your green card, or, I mean, I've seen people even just have bank statements or other things to prove that they've been in the country long term. I think to Stephanie's point about not just having photos of that stuff on your phone, because you don't, again, want to give your phone to law enforcement officials, but I did just want to note that case, because I do think we're not sort of in the time where you think surely they're only going to bother you, or, you know, look for you if there's a reason to. The Supreme Court has now held that if they think you even look like an immigrant, they can stop you. And I couldn't unmute earlier, but I also wanted to go back to the question around the Secure Act to just highlight two other bills that have been introduced, at least in the House. The Secure Act is a Senate bill, I believe, introduced by Senator Van Hollen. But there is the Dream and Promise Act, which would provide a pathway to permanent residency and eventually green cards for TPS holders. And I think even more progressive than the DREAM Act is also the registry bill, which I believe the version of it that has been introduced would also provide a pathway to permanent residency and citizenship for people who have been in the country for 7 years. I have to go back and double check, but I think that's what the latest version of it says. I think these bills are important, and I know Rep. Clark is a co-sponsor, but I think it's important to see that those bills do exist and to continue to encourage members to either support these bills or introduce even more proactive and progressive and expansive policies, to continue to introduce them and to develop and build momentum on them, so that when there is an opportunity, when they're in the majority and, you know, the political opportunity presents itself, that they pass these pieces of legislation. So I just wanted to flag those two things.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hattie. And sorry about that mute challenge before, but I think that's a really, really helpful perspective. And thanks for answering some and providing some more color on the Secure Act, which we got 2 questions on. In the interest of time, we thank you guys for being with us from the early hours of 6 o'clock. Some of you hopped on earlier. We're in the waiting room, so we thank you for your patience. But we want to make sure we're respectful of your time this Friday evening. We're just going to answer 2 more questions. And then please, please, please don't hesitate to reach out to both congressional offices. The contact information is in the chat. Please call us, email us, contact us on the website, and we're happy to follow up with any case-specific questions you may have. But I want to get to, my goodness, Pastor Alan Martin's question. Is there a joint effort between the House and House of Representatives and the Senate regarding the Secure Act. We know that things are not moving in a positive direction, but in the case that there's a break, are there plans to move a bill forward like what was mentioned? And kind of, second. So sorry. That's a great question. Hattie, did you have anything to provide any additional color on that based on your last response?
No, I think what I would say is honestly, this is where you all, as the constituents, should feel empowered. I think many of you already have great relationships with these offices. Many of your community leaders have great relationships with the members themselves. I would, encourage you to ask them to introduce legislation that mirror these pieces of legislation in one chamber or the other. So if you look at the Secure Act and you feel that, the Secure Act in comparison, or even in addition to the Dream and Promise Act or the Registry Bill, is a strong piece of legislation, you can reach out to this office and reach out to the organizations that are on this call, especially the advocacy ones, and encourage the members to introduce a House version of Secure, or whichever other version from one chamber or another. But I would say, you all are constituents. Rep Clark will, say it. Leader Jeffries will say it, but they work for you all. And so it's on you. In many ways, you have more power than even I do, just working at the ACLU, to push your elected officials to introduce legislation that is protective and serves your needs.
Wonderful. Thank you. And the last question, I think two of them almost are kind of, the last two questions are really tied together. What options are available to applicants who are successfully completing the citizenship process but have not been scheduled for an oath ceremony, despite multiple attempts to contact the appropriate office? I think this is more of a immigration question, but I kind of think it's also tied into people who are kind of in limbo in terms of their immigration status. What do folks recommend that they do?
Hi, this is Hattie again. And I think we're just in a very precarious situation right now, where even if you're doing everything right, the latest policy around processing of certain benefits, and that includes citizenship oath ceremonies, have been paused for nationals of certain countries. And that pause, we don't know when it'll be lifted. So I would say, one, just paying close attention to policy changes. The other thing is, again, and this is where, I don't want to speak for the office, but I know from experience working at UndocuBlack, at least, that Rep Clark's office and constituent services in particular is pretty responsive. So if we were living under regular times where you were just having a hard time setting up that, oath ceremony, where there wasn't a policy that was literally pausing access to those ceremonies, I would say reach out to your elected officials for them to, intercede on your behalf. They are able to contact these agencies on your behalf and give you case support where they can. I think, there's a waiver process where you have to give them permission to interact with the agency and speak to them about your particular case. But I've seen offices write letters of support for people. I've seen members directly call ICE to try to get detained people out of detention before. So that there is a menu of options. However, I just want to highlight that the posture that we're in right now, I don't think any immigration relief benefits are being processed right now for nationals of several countries. That includes asylum adjudications, citizenship, green card, permanent residency interviews, and so on and so forth.
In terms of case support, I do want to highlight, if you are feeling a bit fearful to go to those offices, you can always reach out to all these organizations that's presented today, and I'll put UBN's email again. And as I went through the participant chat, I saw Gerlene Joseph is on, and I know a lot of you are familiar with her. She has sued every government, I want to say, on behalf of Haiti. Of course, I'm exaggerating, but I have worked with HBA before I joined on DocuBlack. And as Gerline always said, we went to the border for Haitians and we stayed for everyone else. Gerline, I don't know if you're able to speak. Maybe you can not introduce yourself, but say hello to everyone. We still appreciate your presence with us tonight. Gerline, if you're speaking, you're on mute.
I'm not sure if she's speaking, but Gerlene,
Or
please
maybe
interrupt
she's
if
not
you hear it.
able to unmute.
Can you send me her name? Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, because I was going to mention that I posted the letter for her, but go ahead, Gerlene, if you're there.
Maybe she's still not able to unmute.
While she's trying, and Gerlene, just interrupt me if you could speak, please. She did write a letter to the president. I posted a link. And as Taisha mentioned, thank you so much. She is one of the biggest advocates and have been going after every single government that has never let up. And so I just shared a link because she fights for us and we stand with her when she does. She could speak more about the letter than I can. There you are. Thank you.
Honor expert, thank you so much, Stephanie and Taisha. As Taisha mentioned, and Stephanie has put on the chat, we are asking everyone, organizations, employers, businesses, faith leaders, the churches, to join in an effort to ask the president and his administration to not only extend but redesignate TPS for Haitians. Please reach out if you need more information, but also want to share, I believe has been shared before. But we were in court on Wednesday in California to push for TPS for Haiti and Venezuela. And we are also awaiting the favorable ruling, God willing, from the Mio case in Washington, D.C., where the judge had given the government 3 weeks to provide more information, and we are hoping to hear back from the judge January 28, 29, so we can know where we stand, but we are praying for a positive outcome, as we have already received for several other countries, including Honduras, Nicaragua, and Nepal. And we work very closely with the ASL-CIO, on DocuBlack and others, and many of you here on this call. So please, let's continue to push from the court to the streets, from the churches to everywhere, to make sure we at least get some type of protection for our siblings who are currently at risk. And before I go, especially for the Haitian community, understand we're all in this together, and we'll continue to push. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate you recognizing a community leader that has done a lot of work and effort. I want to yield to Pastor Luc Pierre, and then we'll hear from Congresswoman Clark to close us out. Pastor Luc Pierre, there we go. Thank you for your patience. Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. Good afternoon. My name is Luc Pierre, and I'm the pastor of the New Jerusalem Church of the Nazarene, located here in Brooklyn. And I wanted, first of all, to thank the Congress members, the honorable members of Congress that are here and supporting our community, and all the presenters for the good work that you're doing. And I just wanted to highlight the fact that our churches, as you know, carry the brunt of the immigration saga that our people are facing. For we do help at whatever level of difficulties that our brothers and sisters encounter here in America, we're always there to help them. And I must say that even though the question was asked about what the churches can do to help, but we are actually helping even our own members. We come to a situation where we're overwhelmed, in fact, but due to limited resources that we have available for when it comes to basic needs, whether it's a matter of food, shelter, or even financial help, we're there to assist them. But since our Congress members are here, I would like for them, if possible, even limitedly to address the issues that the president of the Haitian Evangelical Association, Pastor Samuel Nicholas, has presented as far as what are we going to do to change the laws so we don't face this kind of situation that we're facing here. And also what can actually be done to address the security situation in Haiti. For as we all know, a good percentage of our people facing TPS or other problems, they would gladly return to Haiti if the place was secure and safe for them to do so. And even ourselves, or most of ourselves, citizens of the United States, we suffer with this situation that we're facing. So what can be done, or what have you done? Because the governments, they come and go, they don't actually effectively address the situation. And I'm sorry to say, even our democratic governments. So please help us that way. And we're here. You can address us at any point in time if you feel that there's something that we can do to help our communities. I'm asking the presenters, if you know someone who's facing some difficulties, please call the pastors, and we're always there to help. And our job is to not only provide what we can do to help our brothers and sisters, but also to redirect them, as some of our presenters did say, to legal resources. And ourselves in our church, since I'm an attorney myself, so we have done our best to address the legal issues, and also to direct them to people that can help them. And also we're here to provide counseling, because this is very stressful situations. So we're there not only for us to assist in our capacity, but also to direct them to medical resources and other resources where they can find relief in the situation that they're facing right now. So thank you again for your help, and thank you for listening. So we'd like to hear from the representative if they're still here.
Thanks, Reverend Pierre. I think with that and your comments, we will yield to our Congresswoman, Yvette D. Clarke. Floor is yours to close us out.
Absolutely. Let me, first of all, just thank you, Marin, for being such a wonderful moderator of this evening's proceedings. To everyone here gathered, the beloved Haitian community. Unfortunately, we've had to gather tonight to confront the anti-immigrant policies and the reign of fear and terror this administration is unleashing on communities across the nation and right here in Brooklyn. This administration and its ICE enforcers have demonstrated persistent cruelty through anti-immigrant and inhumane immigration practices that disproportionately target blue states. These actions have swept up immigrants in the U.S. and U.S. citizens alike, often without process, funneling them into detention facilities designed to strip them of dignity and expose them to serious harm. Recently, I toured the Delaney Hall detention facility in Newark, New Jersey, following the death of Haitian migrant Jean Wilson Brutus, who, while in ICE custody amid mounting reports, had lost his life. And the inhumane conditions and systemic abuse taking place in that detention center was eye-opening. What I witnessed was deeply disturbing, and I remain appalled by the treatment of migrants in these facilities. For more than a year, this administration has relentlessly targeted Haitian communities and Haitian nationals. This comes as Haiti continues to endure compounding humanitarian, political, and economic crises, with conditions worsening and no clear in sight, total instability. My colleagues and I have repeatedly urged the administration to extend protections for our most vulnerable neighbors. With TPS status for Haitian nationals set to expire, I'm deeply concerned, and that's why this evening was so very important. The Haitian diaspora has enriched our communities and strengthened our economy for over 2 generations now, for decades. They are resilient, vibrant people whose culture and contributions are deeply woven into the fabric of our nation. Our Haitian sisters and brothers deserve more than temporary relief. We must sustain our advocacy to secure lasting safety, stability, and opportunity for Haitian families. This means, of course, extending TPS, ending the harmful enforcement practices, and committing to policies that saves lives, restores dignity, and promotes stability in Haiti. I hope that tonight's discussion has provided you with the tools, the hope, and desire to prepare for the unknown, and that it addressed the urgent concerns, including knowing your rights when confronted by ICE, emergency preparedness, and access to mental health resources to support you and your families during this challenging and volatile time. Once again, I want to thank everyone who has taken the time to join us. I want to thank, of course, our presenters for being so thorough and so professional, and to everyone who was engaged in this critical conversation impacting Brooklyn and Haitian communities nationwide. So as we close, let me be clear. We will not be silent. We will not retreat in the face of fear or injustice. Together with our community leaders, advocates, our allies in Washington, and neighbors, we will continue to organize, educate, and fight for policies rooted in humanity, fairness, and respect for due process. Our communities are stronger when we stand together, when we are united, and look out for one another and demand better from those in power. I want to thank you for your courage, your engagement, your commitment to one another. And I reaffirm my promise to keep pushing in Congress. And alongside you, alongside my dear colleague, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, the leader of Democrats in the House of Representatives, I look forward to an immigration system that honors our shared values and protects the dignity and lives of all people. In answer to Pastor Luke Pierre's question about what are we doing, we are doing everything that we possibly can. I think what's most important is for people in our communities, people who are Haitian American, citizens of the United States, to understand how critical this upcoming midterm election is. And I'm not going to go into who to vote for or anything like that. I'm going to go into the fact that we need to maximize on all of our votes. That means first generation, second generation, third generation Haitian Americans. All of us have to be mobilized to go out and vote. The only way that we are able to prevail with these pieces of legislation, as was mentioned earlier, I've been a prime sponsor of the Dream and Promise Act for many years now. And Pastor Luke Pierre, I have to agree with you. When we had the power, we took things for granted. I think that this administration has demonstrated to everyone what happens when when evil steps into the Oval Office, and when they have a majority of people who are of like mind that are in the legislative body. We have to change that power dynamic, and that will happen when we come out and we determine through our franchise as voters in the United States of America that we want to see a change. And I think that we are blessed in our community with leadership that understands our way of life, who understand the value of the immigrant community, and will fight tooth and nail to navigate us through these very perilous times. And that is our leader Hakeem Jeffries. So I want people to be educated and informed, because the power of the vote is the power that is going to navigate us out of this time of difficulty. It's not going to happen overnight. There's a lot of work that has to be done, but we can arrest some of the worst practices of what is taking place. And I think one of the panelists said this so clearly. You know, these folks are lawless. And, you know, while we erect a lot of the laws that they need to follow, they're not following them. We have to then go to court to sue. And in the interim, they're wreaking havoc all across this nation. They know that what they're doing is not in keeping with the Constitution. They know that many of our neighbors who are going through the process of getting their status adjusted are not criminal. They know that there's a legal process by which these individuals are entitled to their day in court and to the completion of the process that would give them the status they need to remain here. They know all of this, but their goal ultimately is to create a civil society that puts them in a position of power in perpetuity. And we have the power to bring all of that to a direct halt. So I want to encourage everyone on this call to not only look at what we can do in the immediate, which is to protect, educate, and inform our Haitian sisters and brothers who are under threat of losing their status and becoming vulnerable to the cruelties of this administration. But for those who do have status, for us to get beyond the cynicism of, they're not doing this and they're not doing that, and let them know that the power is in our hands to at least stop what's taking place. I'm going to close, but I want you to know what Congressman Jeffries and I experienced in Washington, D.C. They are legally obligated to have this administration come before the committees that we serve on. And because the Democrats are not in the majority, we don't get to determine who comes before us, nor the agenda for the oversight hearings that we have, so that we can question and we can bring to light for the American people how these folks are conducting business outside of the laws and Constitution of the United States of America. If the balance of power were the other way, then we would have the ability to hold these folks accountable for what they are doing and the lawlessness by which they are operating. So the important thing for us to know is that we have the power to arrest what is taking place and to set the wheels in motion for our powers, our humanity to be restored right here in the United States of America. But it takes all of us together. It takes the unity that we need. It takes discipline among our people, and let us not talk ourselves out of the very power that we possess. And that is what our adversaries are counting on. they're counting on us being divided and being fearful and not challenging what they're doing in our names as Haitian Americans, as Jamaican Americans, as Americans. We do not agree with what is taking place, and we find it abhorrible that it is taking place. So to everyone this evening, thank you for giving us 2.5 hours of your time this evening. This is very important, and this is an ongoing conversation, but we did want to make sure that we connected with community, that we level set with everyone, the environment that we are operating in, and do everything in our power to protect our people during these very perilous times. With that, I'm going to yield back to Moran. Many blessings to everyone on the call, and I look forward to our continued conversation and participation with one another in protecting our communities.
Amazing. Thank you, Congresswoman Clark, for just really capturing everything that was said today. It's so important. And thank you for the amazing work that you do. Shout out to your district team for always holding us down and working well with us together. Anita, Debbie, and Orlando, we really appreciated the collaboration on this for the 8th Congressional District and 9th Congressional District. As a reminder to folks, every group that presented today, their contact information is in the chat. If you registered with your email for the Zoom, you will get a follow-up with the modified presentation PDFs so that you have those resources to share. Also, a lot of these resources are available online for the websites of the organizations that presented. We thank you for your time. We thank you, Thierry, who translated today in Haitian Creole for the audience to ensure that everyone could understand the information shared today. And if you have any other follow-up questions, please, please, please don't hesitate to reach out to the Congressman's district office, Congresswoman Yvette Clark's district office, or DC office for any legislative activity. With that, have a wonderful evening. Stay safe.